Okay, everybody, it's good to be with you. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between biography and identity because they are not the same thing, but they are generally speaking linked in pre-awakening, and very often it'll be relinked in post-awakening. So it's a vital thing. We're really following up on the last video. The last video I did was told you about what you are not. Because what I've discovered is that what you are not is finding out what you are not is the fastest way, most direct way to find out who you are. So let's look into more of who you are and what you're not. So, oh, by the way, before I get into this, let me tell you that our little dog, Willy, my heart's joy, he's got cancer. And they're treating it. He's already had a couple of surgeries, and now he's doing chemo and stuff. And there's a link to his GoFundMe in the description for this video, and perhaps you'll contribute to it. So anyway, when we talk about, if I ask somebody, who are you? Then what they'll do is they'll begin to give me a description, maybe a physical description, but usually they'll start out with, well, let's just say this. I'm a 36-year-old man. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I work for IBM, and I live in Atlanta. And I say, no, that's not what I'm saying. I asked you, that's a description of that unit and its circumstances, isn't it? It's achievements and circumstances. They say, well, yeah. And I'll say, but I'm not interested in what the unit has done or what it's accomplished or what its conditions are presently. I just want to know who you really are. I want you to tell me who you are. They say, well, I mean, I'm Bob, and I'm here. And I say, well, that's funny, you're a Bob because I can't see a Bob. And so you're not convincing me that there's a Bob. What you're convincing me is that there's something here that believes it's a Bob. And this is the key, isn't it? There's something here that believes it's a Bob. And what it does is that when we think about who we really are, we go straight into biography. Yeah. Well, I've been seeking now for 15 years, and I'm getting really discouraged, I have to tell you. And I'm not even sure this thing is real, and I'm not even sure that you're not a charlatan, and that this is all just a bunch of junk. And if it is a bunch of junk, it's been a pretty damn fascinating bunch of junk to keep you involved, to keep you looking for 15 years. But you go into biography and you go into the story, because biography is story. Because biography is a story about somebody who's not here. What is the first thing that we learned long ago? The body is not me. And you can say that, and I would suggest you say it right now and recognize that it's true. The body is not me, and you can say it just like that, because the body, that body is not you either. So if it's not the body, what is it? Because there's something here. There's certainly something here, and this body moves in apparent response to my thinking and all that. So I think this is my body. Well, it's not. You can, I can go into a long convincing thing to tell you about this, but I've been cutting these videos for almost 10 years, and I've been cut a lot of videos like that. So I'm just going to say, go do your own research, go look at my other videos. And if you don't believe, if you think that body is you, then you're just very, very confused. And you can stay in non-duality, but if you do, you might want to notice what we call non-duality. We call it non-duality. not two. So there's just one thing going on. You're it, and there's not one thing going on plus one thing to another thing to discover what's going on. The one thing that's going on. It's just the one thing. So biography is all about the humanity, and that's a good thing. I mean, the human element here is, there is a human element here, and it's important, right? It's quite important because it is the experiencing vehicle. And now the body thinks that all this experience is for it, but it's not. The body is actually a sensing device. It's a sensing device that operates within consciousness, with consciousness, as consciousness, but it's you neither the body nor the consciousness are the end user of the sensory information that's found here. And when I say end user, just what am I saying? What I'm saying really is that this is a dream, and apparently what this unit experiences and all of this, it's part of the dream. So you just try not to look at this and say, well, wait a minute, he's saying this, but it can't be that. Don't do that. Don't look at what else I've said or what anybody else has said prior to this, best that you can. Just listen to this video. Listen to me talking right now. I got no reason not to tell you the absolute truth. And just listen to this and just pretend I'm telling you the truth. How about that? I mean, just imagine that I just, today of all days, I decided to tell you the truth finally. And the truth that I'm going to tell you today is the same truth I've been telling you for years, which is what? Which is you are not the body. Yeah. So if you are not the body, isn't the biography all about the body? Isn't your wife or husband that unit's partner? Isn't that right? I mean, did you get married to another unit? I'm going to bet you did, right? I did. I got married to another unit. And I know that she is oneness and that I am oneness, but fortunately oneness doesn't look the same over there as it does here. So we found each other attractive, as amazing as that may sound to you many years later. And we hooked up, and we're so glad we did. And it's been a vital relationship. It's been an important relationship. It's meant a great deal to an imaginary character. It means everything still to an imaginary character. Right? So the difference is now is that I can notice that what I am loves Betsy more deeply than is imaginable by this thing. Because what I understand is that she is love, and I am love, and you are love. There's nothing but love. So if you're not experiencing, and this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be having a gushy moment. Love has little to do with gushy moments. Love is unconditional acceptance. I accept Betsy for who and what she is. She can do no wrong in my eyes. She's just like my dogs, in the sense that she can do no wrong. Those dogs can do no wrong in my eyes. I love them, and I love them unconditionally. And I love Betsy pretty much unconditionally. I'm sure that there are things that she could do that could turn my head, but she does not do them. So all of that is just garbage. It's just imagination. So realizing that you are love and not a unit. Because you notice that imagine that the body is not you. And then imagine that I was to reach through the screen and snatch your body. I'd be the body snatchers. And I just snatch your body and I pull it over here. But I only get the body. I don't get the animating presence of the body. I get a cadaver. I get a corpse. I reach over there and I try to pull you over here, and I end up with your corpse, but I don't end up with you. Now, my question is, what's left from where I just snatched? The body was there, the body's gone. Are you gone? Are you this corpse? Because if you are, you can, you are imagining that you were born, and you will imagine that you are going to die, and you will imagine that you are dying. None of which is true. You are not the body. You are the unborn. And what you think is that the biography of this body is your identity. And it's not. Your identity has nothing to do with your identity. Has nothing to do with a body, and it has nothing to do with a series of events or a series of accomplishments or anything like that. Because you are the unborn. As the unborn, as you can know that you were never born, you can know that you were never going to die, and you will not experience dying. There will be no fear of dying. There may be pain involved. Hell, there's pain involved over here every day. And now, anyway, quite a bit of it. So what? Am I going to develop a story that it shouldn't be? I had a little confusion this week. I have to tell on myself here. I did. Most of you know that I have neuropathy, and it affects my primarily my feet, but my feet and my arms. But my feet are numb. The arms are not numb, but they have a lot of pain in them. Plus, I have no arthritis in the elbows, so the arms are just a bitch sometimes. And but I don't have a story that it's not supposed to be like this. And the pain is experienced, but I'm not suffering. Unbelievable. But this week I found out that I had some expectations that I didn't even know I had. I bet you've got some expectations too, some of which you know about and some of which you don't. And what I found out was that what happened first is that this hand, which can be, this finger has been numb for about 18 months in the last joint of it. So, which is tough because that's where you do all your little delicate stuff, and I can't do it. I do it like this now, only now this finger is going to sleep. And this is what started last week. Started very suddenly. I was sitting in my chair. I didn't notice a thing. I stood up and I went, and suddenly my hand, it was all asleep, all up in here. And I say it's asleep. There's sensation happening, but it's not ordinary sensation. And there was some pain, and there was, and this and that and the other. So, and what I discovered, to get to the point, what I discovered was there was an expectation over here for God to follow through on the agreement that she never made. Right? So in my mind, there was an agreement that, okay, you've got this finger, you've got the feet. Now I've been exercising for a year. I'm in pretty good shape, and better shape than I've been in some years. And now the neuropathy is just getting to where I barely notice it. And that was where I thought we ended. But that's not the case, because now there's this hand. Now the hand is better than it was, but it isn't normal. Trust me. It still feels like there's a big rubber band inside my hand pulling all these things together, and other things as well. But the point being is that I had expectations that I was on the downhill sweep where, just it's easy now because I've done my exercise. I can walk pretty good. And I can, don't have to use a cane anymore. And I've got, I'm lifting weights and stuff. I've got good strength, blah, blah, blah. So this is really just kind of much ado about nothing, but it's not nothing. It's neuropathy. And, I found myself resistant to these new changes, which means what I mean by that is I found myself suffering. Because let me tell you that right now, today, although this hand is better than it was a few days ago, it's still not normal, as I said. And but today, I'm not resistant to this because it doesn't do any good. It is what it is. I felt like that that this was my hand, and I felt like, you know, that these were my feet, but they're not. They're not. This is Fred's hand, so to speak. We're calling this Fred because we've got to call it something. And we started calling it Fred long ago. People were calling it Fred before I even, you know, before I even knew the experience of separation. They were still trying to train this little baby who had no sense of separation. They were trying to say that you are a Bob, and that's a mother, and you don't know about that because there's no sense of separation for the first, you know, number of months, and maybe a year and a half, 2 years, who knows? Usually it's a graduating thing. So I didn't arrive on this planet with a story that I was a Fred. I didn't arrive on this planet with a story at all. I arrived on this planet, it wasn't a blank sheet by a blank slate by a long shot, because there was a hell of a lot of conditioning here. And this hand, it's in response to that conditioning. It's not because the cosmos let me down, man. It's just because that's the way, the combination of this conditioning with these conditions has produced this. And if you had my DNA and you were in this situation, you'd have this too. Fortunately, you're not me and you're not in this situation and you don't have this, but you may have something that, you know, that you're going like, what the hell is he bitching about? I mean, I'm over here and I've lost both my legs, whatever. I mean, I don't want, I'm not comfortable with this in the sense that I'm not excited about it. You know, it's okay, but it's no better than okay, but it's no worse than okay. It's part of the great okayness. Is this the way it's supposed to be? Absolutely. And any thought otherwise is suffering. And it's suffering because what I'm thinking is I'm introducing comparison. And I was really screwed up Monday when I went to go see my physical therapist. I was still real screwed up. My confidence was real low. My balance was lousy. And I just had to steel myself. And I told him, well, what we're going to have to do here, and he was going to do it anyway, but I had to tell myself, is that, so what we're going to do here is we're not going to introduce the concept of comparison, because there is no comparison to this. There's just this. And so what this body apparently could do 2 years ago, and what this body could apparently do 2 weeks ago, are moot. It's what this body can do now. And I noticed that it's pretty ugly, but that the body's given it everything it's got. It's still trying. It's still, you know, it's still at the physical therapist, right? Doing stuff that was hard and looking stupid, you know, because I'm trying to get to do stuff and I'm telling my foot to do something and it ain't doing it, right? Like go in there, over there real, you know, gently, like, and press on that thing. You know, when I press on that thing, I can't tell if it's gentle or not because the bottoms of my feet are not. It's, you know, it has produced a lot of challenges. But they're not my challenges. They're Fred's. Now, there is no Fred. We've seen through that. I've seen through that, whether you have or not. Because there's no you and there's no me, said the me to the you. There's an imaginary Bob over there. The body is not you. There's a story over there about a Bob, and that's what you do when somebody says, who are you? You start telling them the story. And they say, well, tell me about yourself. And they say, well, and you say, you want to know the physical description? I said, sure. So then they go out and they tell you how tall they are and how short they are and how wide they are and all, or whatever, what kind of volume they take up. But I often will ask somebody, how much does, like in this instance, I would just be asking Bob something like, well, tell me what Bob weighs. And old Bob will look at old Fred, and old Bob will say, well, I weigh 175 pounds. And I won't accept that. I'll just slap him down right immediately. And I say, no, 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 no. Because you're talking about that unit, and I'm talking about Bob. And he said, but what? Biography does not equal identity. Biography is what? It's a story. Well, we can, every non-dual book we pick up, every video we watch, they're saying, you know, don't believe the stories, don't believe the stories. And we're like, okay, which story should I not believe? And I'm going to tell you, don't believe that one. That's the story not to believe, is that you're a Bob, or you're a Carol, you're an Alice. Yeah, just don't believe that. You're a Betsy, you're a Fred. Don't believe this. It's just not true. So, and when I'm talking to something, I notice I can't be, this is not a Fred. This is not Fred, in the sense that there are patterns over here, and they're repetitive. They're even physical patterns, and they're repetitive, and they're you know, fairly easy to spot. And we call them Fred. We call these patterns Fred, but there's no Fred in the middle of those patterns. There's just the patterns. We always thought there was something in the middle. We thought there was something in the middle of our body. And I always thought, you know, for 50 years, I thought that there was a Fred inside of this body. But there's not. I can remember when I felt like I'm trapped by this body. If you feel that way, I'm not laughing at you, because I know what that feels like, but it's not true. When somebody says, because let me ask you this right now, this is pertinent. Slow down for just a minute and follow me here. Right now, without memory, what are you? Without using memory, what are you? And when you start looking around at the body, that's memory. Oh, I remember I'm this body. That's a false memory. It's a false memory that began to be implanted in you, well-meaning though they were, by your parents. But it's okay, because their parents told them that they were those bodies, and all the way back. And it'll continue in most cases all the way forward. It's turtles all the way down, it's turtles all the way up. So we have to recognize that there's something here beyond this body, and that this body is not in itself alive. I understand that it is with medically and all that. I get all that very well. But I'm just saying that this body itself is not alive. This body is filled with an animating presence. And I have watched that animating presence leave a body. And in one moment, my dad was right there on the bed. And in the next moment, man, my dad had left the room as if he'd never been there. I mean, there was just an old cadaver here on the bed. And I even helped the hospice nurse do what you do to old bodies. Yeah. And it's just an old body. In other words, it's just it's a piece of meat that people will love and everything, but they will love what they remember about that piece of meat. What do you love in the absence of memory? What is there in the absence of memory? There's just this here now. This here now. Now, this unit's got a very poor memory, but it's got a hell of a lot better memory than a whiteness, because a whiteness got no better or no memory at all. What would a whiteness need memory for? It's always this here now. There's nothing other than here now. There's something other than, we could say that there is something other than this, in the sense that we can say that there's something prior to this. But we can't find it. Not human, as human beings, we can't find it. We can't locate what's prior to this. We can't imagine what's prior to this. If we could talk about what's prior to this, hell, I'd have been out of business 10 years ago. And so would every other spiritual teacher, if we could actually talk about what we are, but we can't. All we can do is talk about it. But when we talk about, so how are you? My name's Bob. I just came here. I'm a seeker for 15 years. I just can't seem to get it. I'm the one that just can't get it. Well, there are 2 million others just like you that just can't get it. So what I want you to do is notice that the one who can't get it is not that body. The one who wants to wake up does not exist. The one who wants to wake up is an imaginary character that was fed to you as a child, which was then like coated with more memory and more accomplishment and more stuff and other peoples and the connections and all this, and where we got a very complicated non-entity. Because there's no Fred here. There just isn't. I saw through that. Well, I saw through it the first time, 1992, 30 years ago. I saw through that the first time 30 years ago, and then saw through it again. Must be 16 years ago, or almost. And I say that I saw through it. What is that? It's just languaging. This is not a Fred talking to a Bob or a Carol. This is just awakeness speaking to itself. Over here, there is absolute conviction that this body is not me. There is absolute unwavering conviction that biography does not equal identity, and that this doesn't even represent me. It just allows me a way to experience myself objectively within a virtual world. Ooh. It's a virtual avatar. It's a virtual world. It's a virtual dream. Your first dream is that you think that you woke up. And that's in the dream. The idea that you woke up, and I mean conventionally woke up, in the sense that you woke up from like a deep sleep. Okay, there's that feeling, because there's that feeling. There was no sense of being, and then there was. But the sense of being arose to something. There was a time when this body was here, and it didn't have a sense of identity. It wasn't there was a sense of being, but there was no sense of being Fred. There is no Fred. There is no Bob. There is no Carol. The body is not you. The body is not you. The body is not you. You are the animating presence by which all of this can happen. This is built upon your apparent consciousness, upon apparent, which is the offspring of apparent awakeness. We don't even know what it is. And I don't know what it is here that doesn't know what that is. And I don't know what this is. And I don't know what that is, but don't know what that is, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not that body. You're not that body. And this is not a Fred. And I guess we could, but even though there's all these knots, there has been a conversation here. The conversation has been to try to implant the idea and let the idea of the seed, let that seed grow, water it, expose it to the sun, begin to act like. What if you were to act like you were oneness? Would that change your behavior? It might not at first, because you can't alter the behavior of something you're not. But what you can notice is that the keen sight of awakeness upon any unskillful pattern, that the very exposure of that pattern to the awakeness brings alterations, will breeds alterations. It just will happen. And it won't be anything that anybody did. It's just, that's what happens. We expose the darkness to the light, and the light takes over the room. Yeah. So we're trying to expose the fact right now that whatever it is over there that's listening to me, it's not that body. What's listening to me over there is me, is the true, free, spacious, unborn, animating presence. And it's really just showing up as animating presence, but it's the animating presence is that's closer to what you really are. It's close enough for today. Today's lesson will say it is what you are. If you want, and we can go further than that. Just take as much as you can, as much as you can drink without drowning yourself. Don't try to put the cart before the horse, and don't try to get ahead of yourself, and don't try to tell yourself that I'm going to be more awake later, or I should be more awake now. Those are both terrible lies that will keep you in jail. Laughing with a student this afternoon, and I was telling him my story about, imagine that there's a man in the desert, and he's holding he's standing in front of the jail cell, and he's got the jail cell, the bars in his hands, and he's just irate. He's screaming that let me out of here. And you and I are in a helicopter, and we can look down and we can see there ain't no jail. He's hanging on to a door he imagined. And if he will only look and see that there's actually no door, that's why they call this the gateless gate. It's the doorless door. The character which does not exist can wake up. That which is not cannot possibly wake up. That which is can, and what is? You are what is. You are the truth, and you are the only thing that is true. All of this is a happening. All of this, including this and that unit over there. This is a happening. It's happening. We're experiencing it, but we can't find who it is that's experiencing it. There's a sense of being, but we can't find whom it arose. And we noticed that it was not present prior to this body, and my guess is it will not be present at the end of this body. But who knows? I'm not dead. Thank you very much for your attention. I love being here with you. I wish I could be here actually with you more often, but I just, I talk all day, and A lot of times I'm busy with this at night, even though I try not to work at night now. But I talk all day and I work on the website and I do all this stuff. So sometimes it's good to let the unit just zoo out and watch some nothing TV with Betsy and the two dogs. I love you very much. Bye for now.